2. I said microphone check. 1, 2. Can't nobody out here do it like me. Ain't nobody out here winning like me. Can't nobody out here do it like me. Just like me, like me. Can't nobody out here do it like me. Ain't nobody out here winning like me. Can't nobody out here do it like me. Just like me, like me.
What's up, everybody? Good evening, and welcome into a special episode of Ace's Wild CHGO Sports Takes right here on the Undefeated Sports Network. As always, I am Andrew Tarbill. To my left is the guy, Angelo Ace Camacho, the one that's wild in this duo. What's up, Ace? How we doing tonight, brother?
What's up, Tarbill? Nice to be back with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been a while since you and I have got to talk sports, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Should be an interesting show.
Absolutely, man. It's been the whole house has been sick here off and on the last 3 weeks, so just trying to get healthy here and get everybody right. My daughter mainly being the big concern there. Never fun when you have a 7-year-old sick at home, but a lot's transpired since the last time we got to chat. So excited to talk about our Chicago Bears. As you know, a lot has gone on in the past 72 to 96 hours, really, since Thursday. Obviously, our Bears unfortunately fall to the Lions, which we'll get into a little bit here later in the show. But all the ramifications of that, obviously, Matt Eberflus is no longer with the Chicago Bears. In my opinion, should have happened much earlier. But again, we'll touch on that later in the show. Just so much to talk about, man. And so frustrating to be a Bears fan. Like, it's so hard to stay positive when everything's burning around you. And I don't think you disagree too much in that regard, but it's one of those things where it's like, okay, the last 30 years of my life as a Bears fan have been relatively miserable. Like, I got to watch them lose the Super Bowl in 2006. That was like, other than
that, what has there been?
I was at the playoff game for the double doink in 2019.
Nice. So that's always a fun memory.
Other than that,
sometimes I get painted as a pessimist when it comes to the Chicago Bears, and
you are
wrong or right about that the way I see this franchise as a whole.
You absolutely are.
I don't think it's unwarranted though. Like,
okay,
I'm 34. Right. I can remember back to around 5 years old is when I first really remember watching football. And
so that's
29 years of my life. There's been one moment where I had true, genuine happiness when it came to this team. And that was when they beat the Saints in the snow to go to the Super Bowl back in 2006.
Okay.
2006, Tarbill.
I thought you were going to say when they drafted Caleb Williams, but
that was a happy moment too. But true, genuine elation for my team that plays at Soldier Field in Chicago. The last and only real positive that I have was 2006 when they went to the Super Bowl after they beat the Saints in that snow game. And and I know that I get a lot of hate or whatever for being so negative on this team and on this franchise. But again, like, every time they build you up with this hope and this promise that it's different this time, whether it's, Jerry Angelo and the players he drafted, or when they got rid of Lovey and they went to Trustman and Emery, and we were, this is a new Chicago Bears. That lasted 2 seasons. Then they went to Pace, and this is a whole new Bears that lasted 3 seasons or 4. And it's always the same stuff, man. It's always the same. And for people to be like, oh, you're just so negative on this team. Like, what have they done to warrant any type of positive vibes towards them? They do stuff so ass backwards. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But like, they don't get, last year, I had no fun watching football. From the moment that first game started against the Packers last season, it was downhill the whole season. This year, at least I got to enjoy 2 games when they played the Panthers and the Jaguars. Like, those were the most relaxed games I've ever watched as a Bears fan. So it's just there's no positives that they give you, and then they get mad when everyone's like, oh, you want this person fired and that person fired. And well, yeah, because it's the same stuff.
How long can we accept mediocrity, right, Ace?
Well,
That's
for a
really
long
what
time, because it'll be 40 years next year since the Bears won a Super Bowl.
Absolutely wild. Next year might be the year.
That's what we say every year.
And have for the last 40. But before we get into our next topic, Ace, I do see our guest is down in the green room eagerly waiting to join us. So, guys, we have a very special guest tonight. Cody Delmendo from CHGO Sports is going to be joining the show. So let's go ahead and bring Cody in. Cody, what's up, man? How we doing tonight?
I'm good, fellas. How are you?
Doing well. Excited to chat a little bit with you about our Bears and ultimately the sad state that this team's in right now, unfortunately. Wish it was a little more positive, but
I mean, let's just be honest about it. When was the last time we were positive as Bears fans other than when Caleb Williams was drafted?
Right. I just got done talking to Tarbill about that. I was 2006.
And if I had to choose another moment, it's probably the day Justin Fields was drafted. It's just
right.
I was saying this on CHGO Cubs today because we were doing comparison of who would you rather have, Ryan Poles or Jed Hoyer?
Okay.
I said something along the lines of the Bear. I'm more pessimistic of all the teams in this city that I have grown up watching and loving no matter what. Yeah. I am more pessimistic about the Chicago Bears than any other team because in my lifetime, other than honestly, when I first really became a fan, no one in my family really is a big football fan, but I became a Bears fan because Devin Hester was Devin Hester. Yep. And other than those couple years there and then losing in the Super Bowl, all I have after that is that fun 2018 season that still ended in massive heartbreak. Mm-hmm. A couple years where you leave yourself wondering, well, if Jay Cutler doesn't get hurt, maybe.
Maybe.
And that was still a long time ago. The last 14 years of being a fan of this organization has made me more pessimistic as a fan to a point to where I don't even enjoy watching them. I can't even bring myself for 6 out of the 7 days of the week. I can't bring myself to have any hope. And then Sunday arrives. I'm like, well, maybe this week's different. And then they always let me down. It's just what it is, man. It sucks. I wish things were different, but they haven't done anything to instill any confidence in any fan. I say this a lot about the Cubs. I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No,
and I'll shut up after this. I say this a lot about the Cubs, especially in recent years. There have been a lot of things with the Cubs where we look back and we're like, oh, the fans were right. Questioning moves, this, that. You could do the same thing with the Bears, but at a more extreme level. Taking Mr. Trubisky instead of even Deshaun Watson, even though Deshaun Watson turned out to be a terrible person, whatever. It's just all these things that the Bears have done over time. It's how many times have the fans been right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's kind of unfortunate that the fans can see it, but the people within the organization all these years just fail to realize that. My brother texted me and he was like, maybe instead of them trying to be good, they should just try to be bad, and they might accidentally fall into being good because whatever they're doing, whatever they think is the right way to go about things, they've done it wrong for decades at this point, and it's frustrating.
It's just it's really sad that more times than not, we as fans can sit back and look at hindsight and be like, man, we were right about this. This wasn't the right move, Right. I will say that they've been right on a lot of things, more so on the defensive side. But man, you lucked into Caleb Williams and you can't even put together a competent season this year. And then I've been more pessimistic as a Bears fan this year than any other year, post Lovie Smith in my life, because admittedly, I was a Fields guy. I wanted to keep Fields, and I have openly admitted on Twitter a few times that I was wrong about that. but I haven't been wrong about keeping Eberflus. And most fans haven't been wrong about, obviously most fans weren't wrong about that. Like I thought all of last year going 7-10, I thought that was all on coaching. And sure, Caleb Williams certainly has shown to have a higher ceiling now. So that, again, I said I was wrong about that. I didn't go to war for Justin Fields. I was just at a point where we've seen enough losing seasons that I'm like, I'm ready to win now. I don't want to go through another developmental season with a quarterback. But I understood why they did it. You get to reset that clock, all this. I'm way past it. I'm just acknowledging what I admitted I was wrong to. But I also said in multiple tweets that, like, the coaching staff has been the biggest reason that this team can't get over the top the last year. Like, you went 7-10 last year, and 3 of the games that you lost, you led by 10+ points. How that wasn't enough to fire Eberflus after you get the number one pick landed in your hands because Carolina was so bad and it's such a fleece of a trade. Like, even the most unlikely thing to happen in regards to the draft worked out in your favor, and you still find a way to not be a competent organization. You know what I mean? Like, it's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. So now, and I hate to come on here and just complain with you guys.
I mean, that's kind of what I do.
Go
that's
ahead.
what I do. I just sit here and complain the whole time.
Now, like, my real pessimistic, negative feeling is like, and this is nothing against him. Who knows? Maybe he's the right guy. But now my pessimistic thinking is, Thomas Brown's he's gonna lead this team to like an 8-9 record, or who knows? Maybe they'll win out and finish like 9-8 or something, and they're gonna give him the job. And then Ben Johnson is gonna go to wherever, and we're all gonna regret this. I want to think that Thomas Brown is a good coach. He was awesome as the offensive coordinator when they put him in there over Shane Waldron. It's still a handful of games. And it's not like you won any of those games either. The offense just looked better.
Well, and not only that, but last week you didn't score a single point in the whole first half, and your offense didn't move the ball at all.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And if the Lions and Ben Johnson don't decide to stop running the ball, like, you lose that game probably 30-7, maybe, if you're lucky. I don't know. And I get a lot of heat for being so negative on this team. But it's just like what you said. Like, I'm in a spot where you look at the situation that led to Eberflus getting hired. You know, all these reports coming out about, you know, the McCaskies obviously interviewed head coaches before they decided to interview GMs and before they ultimately hired Ryan Poles. And then they basically were like, hey, here's 3 candidates that we really like. You should interview these guys and pick one of those. And then a year later, they go and hire a president of football operations. That's what I mean. Like, it's just so ass backwards in terms of how you run the regular day-to-day operations. There's no reason the president should have been hired last of all 3 of those people. And now you're in a spot where you go into a season this year where the main thing from day one you drafted Caleb Williams was you have to get it right for this kid. Because now you're looking at a spot where, and I get anxious because we've watched them fail at coaching, at coordinating. Now you have Caleb. We see these glimpses of this kid who is just on another level compared to anything we've watched as a Bears fan. And now you're already on his 2nd head coach next season. Well, technically it'll be his 3rd head coach if they don't keep Thomas Brown.
Right.
And it'll be his 3rd offensive coordinator. And now we have to hope that we put our faith in these people that haven't shown us that they can do it. Now we have to be like, oh, well, yeah, this is the right combination of guys. Mm-hmm. But then what if it's not in 2 years and we're sitting in the same spot and Caleb's got 2 years left on his deal and we're looking at another Cutler situation where, man, all that promise, all that hope, and there was no offensive coordinator put behind Cutler to make it work, you know? And then we just wasted Caleb Williams. And he's the kind of cat that no shot is he going to sit here and stay in Chicago if that's the outcome of what happens in the next 2 seasons, right?
Yeah. No, listen, when you start to compare it to Cutler and like all this stuff, like if things don't go well, that's another thing. It's like you're already wasting 1 year of that rookie contract. You know, this team was built well enough to make the playoffs, and we've seen it the last 3 weeks. And the only reason they lost it the last 3 weeks is coaching. You know, like, sure, maybe the Vikings game they lucked into even being or having the opportunity. But shit,
Right.
man, like they had so many games that they should have won. They should have won the game against the Colts. You can make the argument that they should have won the game against the Texans based on how the Texans season has played out.
Mhm.
You know,
Right.
like in
I
these
mean,
last three
you
games,
look at the division itself, and you took all
Commanders
three of those
game.
teams.
yeah,
You took all three of these top teams in your division to within one score, right? And a blocked field goal by the Packers to basically you would have won the game if you make that field goal. You take the Vikings to overtime, and your coach is a fool and runs the most soft zone defense I've ever seen. And then he sits there on the sideline on Thanksgiving like he's in a turkey coma and doesn't realize he's got a timeout. Everybody in the world that watches football understood. Even if you don't have anything set, Caleb was on his back. Dude, call a timeout. Reset your team. And
Right.
now you're sitting in a spot where this season's lost. The only thing we can look forward to is, can Thomas Brown get the most out of Caleb Williams? And, you know, then you're, like you said, like, okay, so what if they win out? Now we're going to put Thomas Brown as the head coach. The Raiders did that last season with Antonio
Look how
Pierce.
it worked out for them.
Right,
yeah.
and now look at them. So what is the hope that the offense looks good and then we're the Raiders again next year?
it would have to be something so miraculous, as in the team's just completely different under Thomas Brown. And honestly, for me, like they would have to win out for me to be like, yes, this is the guy. Like I could care less what the players are saying in the locker room, this and that. You are in a position where you can go and get the next big guy, and that's Ben Johnson.
Absolutely.
And I'm sick and tired of these unproven dudes. I know Ben Johnson hasn't proven anything, but he's also the offensive coordinator for the best team in football right now.
Right.
And I've
it's
never
his
seen
offense.
the Detroit Lions be competent other than the last 2 years of my life. Okay.
Right.
What he's done with that offense, with what they got there, it's pretty good. And,
yeah, I mean, it's so impressive.
right. And he's doing it with Jared Goff. And nothing against him, but like Caleb Williams has a higher ceiling than Jared Goff. Like, give me a break. Like, just do what what the most obvious decision here is. And maybe I sound like a meatball. Maybe I sound like I don't know what I'm talking about. Again, I cover the Cubs, not the Bears. But just as a Bears fan, like, can we just do the most obvious thing ever? The most obvious thing ever at the draft was to take Caleb Williams. It was the most obvious thing ever. Now, with this coaching stuff, just take the most obvious, perfect offensive coach that can build Caleb Williams, help him develop, and then you don't have to worry about losing your offensive coordinator down the road or whatever. You know what I mean? Just get an offensive coach, bring him in there, and if you do hire Ben Johnson and it doesn't work out, then I'll just be mad at myself, but also just like I'll continue to look at just the very, very top of the Bears. And you know, it is what it is. But man, like I just feel like you got to go get the best guy who can work with Caleb Williams. I get that at the end of the day, that's what's the most important thing when it comes to him. So yeah, man. All I can say is I'm glad that I don't do CHGO Bears. I would scream and yell more than Braggs does. I'm significantly more angry about the Bears than I've ever seen him, in my opinion, I think. And this is why I don't do that show, because I just cannot have any optimism ever for this team. I mean, for context, you know, we did this thing during baseball season this year. Every Friday home game, we did this thing called Friday 120 Club. And it was me and Braggs.
You guys were out there with the signs, right?
Yeah, we had the signs out there in left field, right? In the bleachers. And we went to every Friday home game. It was like this community building thing we did. I mean, the Cubs were very boring by June. And I remember Braggs, Friday 120 Club turned into like basically everyone who came, we would bitch about the Cubs for, I don't know, half of it. And then a lot of it was just talking about our optimism about the Bears. And every single time we were there, every time someone would bring the Bears up to me, I would tell every single person I talked to, was like, I'm not getting excited about the Bears until the week before week 1, because I know what I know, and I'm not putting myself in that position yet. I'm not getting optimistic about this team or getting too hyped up. We're going to be on Hard Knocks I know how this goes. I know
Hard
how
Knocks
this
was
goes.
such a joke.
I wish I could sit here and tell you guys that I was wrong. I wish I could sit here and tell you guys I was wrong. But they've never proven anything to me in the last decade and a half. They haven't proven anything to me to have any sort of optimism or hope that things are ever going to get turned around. It starts at the top. I mean, the firing of Matt Eberflus even was dysfunctional. The fact that you let him do the press conference and then you fire him like 20 minutes later. I mean, it's just so dysfunctional at this organization.
It's so Bears.
It's so Bears.
Yeah, and
right?
that's
So
the
that
worst
takes
part.
us right into our next topic. Actually, great segue there, Cody.
You're welcome.
Flus is fired. 14-32 as Bears head coach. 2-13 versus the NFC North, and those 2 wins only came last season. So obviously, you mentioned Hard Knocks. They spent a great deal of time telling us how Matt Eberflus gets his hair styled, and
Yeah, they showed us
you
that
know,
really
he's got
big,
he's
beautiful
got
home
this
that he
beard
has
now. He's
with that big E in his driveway.
I never seen a guy's what's the word I'm trying to think of? Narrative change because he grew a beard. I've never
so
seen
much
something
over
like
a beard. Yeah.
What do I need to change my hair color and then all my haters will turn into people who like me? Like what do I got to do, man? Like
Apparently that's the key to success, man.
And the
But
thing about the
ultimately-
Flus, right? Go ahead, Tarbill. Go ahead.
So ultimately, Matt Eberflus, not an impressive stint here as the Bears head coach. You touched on the timeout debacle that happened last week, but you know, to further allude to the negative energy around Matt Eberflus, even in that Minnesota game when we got the onside kick, which was the first onside kick recovered all year by an NFL team, I'm still sitting on the edge of my couch thinking there's no way in hell that we win this game. And it's just unfortunate that that's what this organization has instilled in us as Bears fans, is like, we can be up by 14 points with 2 minutes left, and I'm not comfortable, because wilder things have happened in the Chicago Bears over the last 5 years, man. I mean, I was telling Ace before you jumped on, I was at the double doink game, and as surefire as we thought that was going to be for the Bears to come back and win, you hear that football hit the crossbar the first time, and it's just like, this is so Chicago Bears, and it's been a tyrant list of mistakes ever since then.
And that goes back to basically what we've talked about in the beginning, right? Is we see these things playing out, and then we predict as fans how it's going to end, right? That whole season, Cody Parkey is shanking kicks all year. I'm at that game. I'm watching that game with
hitting the crossbar.
Right. I'm watching that game with my best friend. It's halftime. I'm like, this is going to come down to a field goal, right? And he's going to hit the upright. Not only does he hit the upright, he hits the crossbar, double doink. Now we're known as a double doink team for the next 5 years. We watched last season, all these blown games, historic losses, right, Tarbill? You and I talked about it all off season.
Yeah.
And Ryan Poles, let's break the cycle. Okay, we kept Flus because of how he held the team together. That's cool, but if your self-inflicting wounds are what you're holding together, you can't take credit for fixing something you broke. You know what I mean? And that's where we were at this season. All this stuff. You hire Shane Waldron because reports are that you didn't want somebody who had a bigger attitude than you, or who was a jeopardy to your job on the staff because you were scared. So you hire this guy who was a complete failure, might be the worst hire in Chicago Bears history in terms of any
Mark
position. Trestman still had a top offense his first season. So I don't know if that's necessarily fair. I think he was only second to Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos, if I'm remembering correctly. And not only that, but you fire that dude and he's vanished into the wind. Then you go out and you just shit down your leg against the NFC North. This goes on Ryan Poles too, though. Like whether McCaskey, and that's another one of our topics, is the blame game. Who's really to blame for this organization's failures in terms of where do you point the finger? And okay, Flus is gone now, but the internal problems are still there just by watching how they fired him, right? Like it's so sometimes embarrassing to be a fan of a team when you see all these glaring issues and how easy it is to just not do things wrong, but they continue to do things wrong. And like Cody, I'd like your opinion. You know, you're more of a fan, and you know, Braggs is Braggs. We've had the pleasure of talking with Braggs plenty of times. But like, I want your thoughts on of the three guys on the screen.
Yeah,
Warren, Poles, and Mr. George over here. Who do you think deserves the most blame for just how it's gone the last few years?
I mean, you know, Kevin Warren hasn't been here long enough for me to like even be able to put a read on him, I guess. I mean, outside of the fact that like this whole stadium thing has just been like ridiculous, right? And that's basically like that's a big part of why he's here. But you know, George McCaskey has 0 playoff wins in his time in his position, right? Ryan Poles, I'll say this about Ryan Poles. Has he been perfect? No, but when we were comparing him and Jed Hoyer on CHGO Cubs today, I said something along the lines of like, if you could mesh the two together, I think it would be you'd put together a really good GM, because I think Poles is he's more likely to take some big swings, right?
Yep.
And Jed Hoyer, I don't know if you guys are Cubs fans, but
oh yeah, absolutely,
we are, and he's more.
And I assume that's why you brought me on. But we've been talking about the Bears the entire time, so I didn't know why I'm personally here. But you want to talk Chicago sports?
I wanted to talk Cubs, but I didn't know if we had enough time after the Bears.
Sure,
they're just such a hot topic,
and the Bears are a hot topic right now, right? But Poles, he takes more swings, and Jed Hoyer is more risk averse. Now, Poles' marginal moves, I think, have been bad, while I think Jed has been better in those risk averse type moves, like the small moves that you get more value out of, like Cody Bellinger, for example, before he he got the contract extension last year. When they gave him the pillow contract of like, what was it? I don't even remember how much it was. It was like $18.5 million after he had that terrible season with the Dodgers. Like, he's better at those types of moves than I think Poles has been. You give Nate Davis $10 million or whatever it was, complete. It was terrible. You know, the Claypool trade with the Steelers, terrible, right? Bayless Jones was a bad draft choice, whatever. The draft is such a different, when you compare baseball and NFL, it's hard to do, right? But I think Poles has been better on those big swings, like the DJ Moore trade. Like, I sit and complain about Jed Hoyer not making a trade somewhat similar to that. Like, taking the big swing, try and go and get the future, right? Like, I'm sitting on our show today complaining about, you know, signing a guy who hasn't pitched 100 innings since before the pandemic today. And the fact that he's the biggest signing he has made as the president for the Cubs is Dansby Swanson 2 years ago. You know, like, I think Poles has taken bigger swings, and I think he's built the team the right way. The only thing I would change, I guess, is, you know, he's kind of like Jed Hoyer and trying to piece the bullpen with a bunch of like no names and value plays and stuff, and it's worked a little bit, but it's still not really consistent. And like, I feel like that's how Poles has done the offensive line, right? And but at the end of the day, man, when it comes to this stuff, like these front office executives, dude, it always starts at the top. It always starts at the top. The ownership just runs this organization like it's a mom and pop, and the fans deserve better, man. They charge way too much money for their nosebleed seats to act the way that they do, man. I wish,
dumpy stadium. It's terrible stadium.
Oh yeah. I wish I was a fan who liked going to Soldier Field. Like, I tell people all the time that, like, if I go to Soldier Field, the weather's gotta be nice, because this team ain't good enough for me to want to ever go and sit in the cold. Last time I went to a game actually was in the cold, but I got those tickets for free, and they were like 2 rows up in the end zone. Like, I couldn't say no.
Okay,
but I would.
The incentives got to be there.
Yeah, right. I got them for free. Again, I would not pay for that to go watch this team, this organization, the way that it is built, the way that it's the anger that it's given me over the last 15 years of my life. Right. That doesn't mean I don't like going to watch the Bears. It's just more about like, why waste my money? Why waste my money when I can sit on my couch and watch the Bears ruin my Sunday? You know what I mean? Like, it's just. That's how bad it is. And it starts at the top, man. It starts at the top. I don't know what he's got to do to change, because I'm not in there. I'm not at House Hall. I'm not in those meetings or in listening to him talk. But it's like the people who complain about ownership, a lot of people complain about ownership in this city when it comes to our sports teams. Rightfully so, especially for the guy who owns the White Sox and the Bulls, right?
No kidding.
And I got plenty of good and bad to say about Tom Ricketts. But when it comes to George McCaskey and that entire family and how the Bears are run, man, like it's even more than just like, you know, the last 14 years, man. It's just like they're still riding the coattails of 1985 a little bit, man. Like,
right.
Yeah. Like I
It's
just told Tarbill, that's 40 years next year. Next season's the 40th anniversary.
I wasn't even alive in 1985.
Neither was I.
Exactly.
Neither was I. It's just it's so like disappointing, because when I tell people that Chicago is like the best sports city, I don't just say that because I live here and that I grew up a Chicago sports fan, but like when teams in this city are good, man, people get on board. People care. The passion for these teams in the city is unmatched. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care about what you say about LA, New York. Fuck them. Sorry if I can't curse on here.
No,
right?
you're
You're good.
I swear plenty.
But like in Chicago, here in the Midwest, like blue collar, like the fans are like, it's different when teams here are good, dude.
Yeah.
And we just no one has been good in the city for 8 years. The Cubs were the last team that was actually good. I guess the White Sox in 21, whatever. We watched how bad that fell apart, whatever. But
they were the last team to win a playoff game.
I know. And it's crazy considering how bad this last season was. But
right.
At the end of the day, though, and I think everyone would agree with this, like it's a Bears town. Like everyone comes together for the Bears, and this organization just they don't do enough to give what the fans deserve. And that's why I don't go to games. It's why I don't have a lot of hope. You know, I'll always support. I'll always have some reason to maybe believe on game day. But man, it's just until they put together some sort of sustained success, there's no reason I should believe that things are ever going to change here. And to me, it always starts at the top. Always starts at the top. And I'm someone who hates it when people complain about ownership, especially with the Cubs. But when it comes to the Bears, like it's just so obvious. Yeah. And like the firing of Eberflus after he did the press conference or whatever, like 20 minutes after, like just again, not to go back to it, but like that's just a clear, obvious showing of like just how dysfunctional they are and how much ownership really cares. He should have been fired the night of Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He should have never done that press conference. And that alone just shows how much they care, man. Like
I believe Kevin Warren actually said today that the decision wasn't made until after Matt was live with the media, and
it's such a joke. Yeah, it's such a joke, man.
And Cody, I know we talked about like 15-20 minutes. I did have a Cubs topic. I watch all your stuff on Twitter, you know, all your Japanese meals that you've been eating. Now, an interesting topic with the Cubs is this situation with Cody Bellinger needing to bring in some bigger talent. Obviously, you know, you have a team of a bunch of good guys on the team, but nobody that's great.
Right.
You know, I've been watching all your trade scenarios and all that stuff. What have you kind of heard about the potential of moving Cody Bellinger this offseason?
Dude, I think they can move Cody Bellinger tomorrow if they really wanted to, if they were willing to just not get the value back, which I'm glad that they haven't. Like, this is the thing. He's making $27.5 million next year and the season after if he opts in. If he puts up another season like he did last season, he's going to opt in next year.
Right.
This is the thing about Cody Bellinger. I think he's a really good baseball player. I think that he is probably the second or third best player on the team behind Seiya Suzuki or Ian Happ, maybe both, whatever. But he gives you defensive versatility. He can play all three outfield positions. He can play first base for you. He's a left-handed bat. They don't have a lot of left-handed bats. Right. He provides power. I know he only hit 18 homers last year. He was also hurt twice. One of them wasn't his fault. He got hit by a pitch when they were in Baltimore. It broke his hand or whatever, broke his finger. So I can't blame him for that. He did run into the outfield wall in like May on a fly ball or whatever. Should I be mad that Wrigley is a brick wall? Whatever. That one's a little bit more on him than I will put on him for, you know, what happened in August. But he does have injury history. He gets hurt like every year, right? Can he be? I think 2023 was probably peak of what we will see with him with the Cubs, which was a 4.5 WAR player. He hit almost 30 bombs, whatever. But he's not the same player he was with the Dodgers. He's a complete different hitter than he was with the Dodgers before he started having down seasons. Like his first couple years in the league, people thought he was on a Hall of Fame trajectory. I mean, he hit 40-plus bombs multiple times. He was an MVP in 19, I believe. And then things just went downhill. Injuries were a big part of that, I think. So to bring it back around when it comes to talking about trading the guy, I think a lot of fans need to understand that, like, it's not like he's Jason Hayward. It's not like he is the reason the team isn't making the playoffs. I will say that he hasn't produced enough to himself to put the team in the playoffs. But at the same time, the idea, if you want to use just look at it from a front office perspective, anyone in the Cubs front office who really thought that Cody Bellinger was going to put the Cubs in the playoffs or be the reason the Cubs make the playoffs, those people should be fired immediately because he was coming off one really good year after like 4 bad ones.
Well, wasn't that kind of the narrative though? Like that was once they re-signed him, they're like, oh, well, that was the big offseason move. Like,
right,
we got Cody back. What else do we need to do? You know,
well, there were a lot of things they needed to do.
Right. That's what I'm saying. But they looked at that as like okay, well, that's our big free agency signing, and that's our big piece that we brought to the team, even though he was just on the team.
Right.
You know,
the biggest thing that I have been frustrated with the Cubs, and it goes back to what we were talking about with Ryan Poles versus Jed Hoyer, is like Ryan Poles has made big swings. Jed Hoyer hasn't made any big swings. They have 8 top 100 prospects in their farm system, which is awesome. He's completely flipped the minor league farm system since the moment he became president when Theo Epstein stepped down. They were a bottom 10 farm system when he took over. And now they're top 10, and they have the most top 100 prospects in all of baseball on their team, in their system. But they're not all going to play for the Cubs.
Right.
It's just the fact of the matter. They're not all going to play for the Cubs. And you should be using that capital to go get the big bat that this offense desperately needs. Like they have, you said it yourself, Ace. They have good players, but they don't have a star. They don't have a superstar. The closest thing to a star that they do have, probably based off 2024, probably is Ian Happ or Seiya Suzuki. Cody Bellinger has the ceiling. Cody Bellinger has the ceiling to be a superstar player. He got MVP votes in 2023, but again, 2024 he was a 2 WAR player. 2023 4.5 WAR player. Even then, still wasn't enough to put them in the playoffs. Like they are missing that. They are missing the John Lester signing from 2015. They are missing that. And this is why it's frustrating to me that they aren't even picking up the phone to call Juan Soto.
Yep.
Not even pick up the phone. The Royals picked up the phone to call Juan Soto.
I saw
Soto
that.
probably sent him straight to voicemail, but they still called. They still called.
You still at least picked up the phone and made that effort.
Right.
The fact that the Cubs are one of the most expensive experiences in baseball, going to Wrigley Field, tickets, game day experience, $14 to $16 beers. I go there enough. I know how much it is. The food, parking, all of this. They've changed the neighborhood all so much, and it's so much more expensive to just have fun in that entire neighborhood compared to 10 years ago. They've done all this. And the fact that at this point, going into 25, it looks like they're not going to be in on anybody of the top free agents at this point. It's wild. Is a joke, bro. It's a slap in the face to me and both of you.
Yep.
It's an absolute joke. It's a joke, and I will not let this go. If they do not sign one of the top free agents in a season, going into a season where you are expected to make the playoffs, and they miss the playoffs again, it will be as telling as ever about Cubs ownership. whenever I have in the past defended them, I think that I will be reaching Reinsdorf or McCaskey levels if they do not make the playoffs next season, if they don't do enough this offseason. Now,
I mean, you're not wrong. Like,
Right.
what have you done? You've missed the playoffs the last 3 seasons. You look at that lineup. Who in that lineup are you, if you're a pitcher, are you afraid to throw at? Nobody.
nobody.
And then you got you got a bullpen that just can't save a game to save its life. So you're basically this great top 3 baseball system, and you are spending like you're a bottom 5.
Yeah. Now, I said this. I think I said this last week. I said this last Thursday on our show. I said that if you were dominating the NL Central and we're making the playoffs every year at least, I probably wouldn't complain about how you're spending money as much. Now, I probably would get to a point to where it's like, okay, when are we going to put this team to even greater heights? But you are letting the Milwaukee Brewers own you. The Brewers, they don't spend any money. And their fan base sucks. The Cubs fans freaking fill their ballpark so they can keep the electricity on. There's a joke that they own you. And you haven't taken advantage of the fact that the Cardinals have been ass the last 2 years.
Absolute ass.
You know? Like, when are we going to get back to being anything close to the years of 2015 to 2019? Even though that 2019 team was a massive disappointment, that team still had some optimism going into that year. They have done nothing. They have done nothing other than rebuild twice the last 2 years, or last 10 years, or 15 years, whatever, however you want to look at it. They've rebuilt twice in the last 15 years. You traded all of the guys from 2016, which at this point in hindsight looks like the right move. You rebuilt the farm system, and you've developed some guys. You got some guys on the rise. You got guys coming up. When are we gonna put our financial muscle? When are we gonna flex it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't mean to overspeak there, man. But like, I'm just so sick and tired of the Cubs acting like the Pirates or the Reds, and even the Brewers at this point. You know, you even hired arguably the best manager in baseball last November. And then the biggest move you did was bring back Cody Bellinger, which didn't even happen until like mid-February.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine being Craig Counsell, right?
You
go from the Brewers, and you're like, oh hell yeah, I'm gonna go to the Cubs. They're gonna spend all this money, and then they do what they did last year.
So to bring it back around for the final time, in regards to trading Cody Bellinger, man, like, if you're going to trade Cody Bellinger, the only way that I even really support it is if you're going to go and sign someone who is proven to be better. If you're trading Cody Bellinger to give Owen Casey the opportunity to be the full-time right fielder or outfielder, whatever, or Kevin Alcantara, as much as I like those guys as prospects, that's not what the Cubs should be doing, man.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's what I think a lot of fans who disagree with me a lot, I think a lot of them don't understand what I mean by when I say all that. Like, I think Cody Bellinger he can be a really valuable player. He's just got to find a way to stay healthy. And sure, it'd be nice if he hit a few more homers next year. The defensive versatility is very valuable. But if the Cubs, who reportedly are, it's like what did Nightingale say? He said it's the most unkept secret at the GM meetings this year was that Cody Bellinger was on the trade market, that the Cubs were trying to trade Cody Bellinger no matter what. Like, when I hear stuff like that, it sounds like a salary dump, dude. It doesn't sound like they're going to trade Bellinger only to go sign Juan Soto. The fact that they are more focused on trading Cody Bellinger than signing Juan Soto it's a slap in my face, man. It's a slap in my face. And so I hate being negative about the Cubs, because the Cubs are the only team in the last, or most of my adult life, that have given me any kind of happiness, which is crazy to say because they're the Cubs. But like, they won the World Series in 2016 with the same type of front office. Jed Hoyer was here when they won the World Series. He was the GM, not the president, but he was the GM. Like, he helped build that team. Like, I hate being this negative about the Cubs, but like I just call it like I see it, man. And they're being cheap, and they are afraid to take the big swing to make this team at the very least, a NL Central powerhouse.
Right.
Yeah.
This division is so terrible.
Yeah.
You could fall into being at the top.
Yeah. So
it's crazy.
We'll see how the winter meetings go. I mean, it's still early in the off season. I could be yelling about nothing, and maybe they do get a top name on the market. I still lean that it's probably more of a pitcher if so, but man, these reports since the off season started, man, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
Super frustrating to be a Cubs fan and to be a Bears fan at times.
And a Bulls fan, right? And a Blackhawks fan. Really, just
Chicago
to be a fan of any
man.
sports team
Chicago
in Chicago
sports fan in general.
is not great right now. But Cody, go ahead, Tarbill. You go ahead.
Cody, we definitely appreciate you being so generous with your time. Thanks for jumping on to join us and talk Bears through more of a fandom lens and give us your insight there on the Cubs a little bit. We definitely appreciate it. So for our viewers that don't know, you want to let everybody know where they can find you and your podcast?
Yeah, so on all platforms, my handle is Cody_CHGO. I do the CHGO Cubs podcast. I'm the guy who probably yells too much. Yeah, check it out if you're a Cubs fan, obviously. But CHGO Sports, if you're just a Chicago sports fan, you've never checked us out, give us a chance. I think in terms of all the top media platforms here in Chicago, I think we bring the most fan perspective than anyone else out there. That obviously sounds biased because I work there, but I just think we care a little bit more, man.
So that's what I love about CHGO is like you said, you guys speak from that fan perspective, the way that every fan kind of thinks, and that's what makes CHGO so good, and that's why
we're
I love into you guys.
I think we're really unique, and you know, while we do that, we also have really, really talented like people who are actually credentialed who can cover the team too. So we give you a little bit of both, and yeah, man, like it's been a fun ride since our launch in March of 2022. Hope to keep going, and so that's where you can find me. And hopefully the next time you guys have me on, I don't come on here and yell about the Bears or the Cubs. Maybe they both are playing a lot better.
Well, we would definitely love to have you back in the future, Cody. Appreciate you joining us tonight, and you have a good rest of your night, sir.
Absolutely, man. You guys, thanks for having me, and don't let the Bears ruin your day like they ruin mine.
We'll try, but it's hard work.
Cody.
Take care.
All right.
All right. Cody Delmendo from CHGO Sports.
Real quick. Let me just say, it was so nice to get to speak with somebody. To get to speak with somebody who feels my pain, who doesn't see me as a negative person, because they're in the same boat as me when it comes to the Chicago Bears team. Really, when it comes to all Chicago sports at this point, because it's kind of just a big clusterfuck of problems.
So, Ace, I want to bring a little positivity back into this episode.
Okay.
Ultimately, Cody was great, man. Gave us a real fans perspective. Obviously, him being there with CHGO and getting to cover the Cubs and stuff, awesome. So glad we got to touch on Cody Bellinger and kind of his thoughts of the Cubs offseason thus far. But swinging it back over to the Bears to wrap this show up, man. We didn't really touch on what transpired last Thursday too much other than the timeout usage. So real quick, Bears versus Lions recap. Williams, 20 of 39, 256 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions because Caleb Williams doesn't throw interceptions, and 39 yards rushing. Jared Goff, who I think you spelled his last name incorrectly, 21 of 34, 221 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions.
I just swipe text. Whatever's there is there, and it goes.
So Caleb Williams had the better day. Statistically, obviously, 1 more touchdown, 35 more yards passing, 39 yards more rushing because Jared Goff doesn't run.
It's like a
Caleb
stat.
Williams, man, really looking electric these last few weeks. And one positive that I will say as a Bears fan is Caleb Williams has undoubtedly shown you this season that he's the guy of the future. Like, if he doesn't get hurt, he is your quarterback of the next 10 years, without a doubt.
Well, yeah, I mean, in that game alone, he broke the Bears all-time Bears rookie touchdown record. And I believe he also broke the NFL record for most consecutive passes thrown by a rookie without an interception.
Yes,
we knew coming into this season.
So the game before, sorry to cut you off, Ace, but the game before, he threw for more yards than any Bears rookie quarterback in Bears history in week 11.
Yeah.
Just put a gauge on that for a second.
So that's, I mean, okay, so Bears quarterbacks have been shit the entire history of this franchise.
Are you like trying to mock me? I kind of understand.
But like,
yeah, Cutler.
We talked about this. Listen, Tarbill, you're back with me for the first time in like a month, and now you want to start jawing about Jay. But anyways, we talked about this before the season about how the bar was so low for Caleb in terms of what would get Bears fans excited. But like the fact that so he broke the touchdown record on Thursday, right? Yep. Let's not forget that he didn't throw a fucking touchdown in 3 previous games. Like,
okay, stop now. You're
no.
You're being what we call a hater.
No. I'm still going positive here. When
you
watch Caleb
back
play,
around because you got negative.
That's what I'm going. When you watch Caleb play, even when he's struggling, you look at him and you see a guy that's like, well, I'm going to figure this out. It doesn't matter what's happened at all throughout this game. When it's needed, I'll figure out a way to get it done. And he's proven that this season.
He's done it, yeah.
He did it in the Washington game. Minus a stupid Hail Mary, they win that game. He leads you on a game-winning drive touchdown. They tried to give it away by giving it to the offensive lineman to score, and he fumbled, and Caleb still brought you back to win that game. You go up against
Green Bay.
Right, you go up against the Packers. And not only does he play well, he outplayed Jordan Love. And I don't care what anybody says. He outplayed Jordan Love in that game.
And he put you in a position to win.
He put your team on his back in a position to hit a game-winning field goal. Sure, there was still some time left on the clock, and you probably could have ran another play and got back into even better field goal position. But that's on the coach, and we're past that. You go against the Vikings, right? You go against the Vikings who have a good defense, and you take them to overtime. And if your coach doesn't screw it up, you probably have a potential chance to win that game. And then you go up against, in my opinion, now there's some Detroit fans that are watching, settle down. In my opinion, probably the best team in football overall, in terms of just how they've played all season.
Aside from the Chiefs, yeah.
And, I mean, their offense looks better than the Chiefs, if you ask me. So then you take that team to not only – that's what's so frustrating about that game, and I'm really trying not to be negative here, but Caleb was dishing that final drive. He was
absolutely
just going.
Dealing. Yeah.
And then you go and mess it up by not using your timeout. And it's like, I wasn't even thinking, okay, cool, let's tie this game and go to overtime. I was thinking the way Caleb is playing right now, he's looking touchdown. This dude wants to win this game now. And then you screw it up. There is zero doubt in my mind, not even a little bit, if Caleb is the guy or not. And I've had this argument. I had this argument with my dad on Thanksgiving because he is so adamant that the Bears should have kept Justin Fields and used these draft picks to build around him.
Oh, no, Still,
Caleb Williams.
Still, I'm asking.
Yes, still.
Your dad is still adamant about it.
Caleb Williams is the best quarterback the Chicago Bears organization has ever had, period. End of story at this exact moment.
Yes.
At this exact moment. And he's done nothing.
Better than Smokin' Jay?
Oh, sorry, Jay, but yes, I'd have to say better than Jay Cutler. And that's only because of the potential upside, him being a rookie and doing things that we've never watched before.
I love that I just got you to admit that on the air, by the way. That
Yeah.
warms my heart so much.
We'll bring it back
So
sometime down the road if something.
I'm going to
terrible
record
happens.
that and soundbite it the moment that Angelo Ace Camacho said Caleb Williams is better than Jay Cutler.
Yeah, I mean,
Was it like the 54-minute mark of the
54:45 or something like
so
that.
I do like your holiday festivity. You've got the
Thanks,
Christmas
man.
tree up already.
Yeah, my elf on
behind
a shelf. He's up. He flew into my Christmas tree last night. Lucky he didn't knock it over. What a jerk, you know.
Oh yeah, started
But-
that here too. Yep.
But
No, I mean Caleb Williams. To bring it full circle, Caleb Williams is the best quarterback the Bears have ever had already in his rookie season. That is a testament to how horrible we've been at picking quarterbacks. As great as Caleb Williams is, there's no reason that this team has never had a 4,000-yard passer. None whatsoever.
and technically, he's still on projection to break that.
Caleb
He just
could
needs
still
to
break
average, I
that.
think, like 240 yards a game.
I think it's a little higher than that. I think it was like 287 last week.
I'll double check, but
But-
he's definitely going to break all the.
He already has broken all the Bears.
I mean,
rookie
there's only a
records.
few guys left. I think Jim McMahon is above him in yards for his first season as a Bear. I don't remember. Let me see. For one of his seasons as the Bears.
Okay.
And I think Cutler might be ahead of him too.
Oh, total yards all time as a Bears passer, I believe, is Eric Kramer.
Let me see.
Set the mark.
Yeah.
at
Kramer does, but then I
80.
think Cutler is. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to look.
But
Hold on. Just keep
While
talking.
you look that up, I'm going to keep talking about how you look at this. We're a handful of plays, and they always say that football is a game of inches, right? And that one or two plays can determine the outcome of a game. But we are a Hail Mary, a blocked field goal, an inept coaching mistake last week, and then the Vikings loss, which is tragic. That's 4 games right there that the Bears should have won, arguably. Yeah. Now, I mean, you can argue that, as Cody said earlier in the show, we shouldn't have even been in that Minnesota game because we got the first successful onside kick of the year, which shout out to Richard Hightower because nobody gives that man enough credit. But everybody blames him when DeAndre Carter fumbles the ball after he says fire and then doesn't get away from it. But
so real quick, if this is all accurate, let me just see. Now, this is on profootballreference.com. I believe this is every single quarterback that has ever played for the Chicago Bears. There has been 462 passes. So, it's not all just quarterbacks, but it's everybody who has passed the ball for the Chicago
Bears. Okay.
There's 462. A lot of them are quarterbacks. You got Walter Payton sprinkled in there a little bit.
Yeah.
But Caleb currently, as a rookie, is, I got to go all the way back up to the top. Hold on.
I'm going to say 4th on that list.
Close. For single season, he is at 18 with, so far, because the season's not over, 26-12.
Right, but he's on pace to
he's on pace to. So the top 5 are Jay Cutler, Eric Kramer. Cutler's best season was 38-12. Eric Kramer is 38-38. So, you're a little far from that, but you are, I mean, for 1,000 more yards, he basically puts himself 1,200 more yards. He basically puts himself as the top 5 passer season leader in Chicago Bears history, which is kind of crazy if you ask me.
Which is kind of crazy, but it also is a testament to how resilient this kid is. Time and time again, putting the city of Chicago on his back and driving us down the field only for Matt Eberflus to forget that he has a fucking timeout when everyone in the nation knows he has a timeout there. Like,
you should have watched.
Do you think they were losing on purpose?
I don't know, man. But so I do want to talk a little bit. I know we usually try to cut it an hour, but all this talk about Flus, and I get it. I was from day one.
He's not.
I was the fanboy of getting rid of Eberflus since before they brought him back this season. But I think now you have to change the lens and start looking elsewhere. Like if Thomas Brown is able to get better production out of this team, is that a testament of how good Thomas Brown is, or is that a glaring look at
Detriment
the
to how
players?
bad Matt Eberflus
Well,
was.
not even that, but at these players, right? Like you guys are players. You get paid all this money. Oh, well, he didn't hold us accountable. Dog, you're professional athletes. Hold yourselves accountable for a change. You know what I mean?
Jaquan Brisker posted on Twitter 7 hours after Matt Eberflus was fired. Feels good to touch grass again.
Well, that's what I mean. Like yes,
what is
he
going
might have
on?
been the worst coach ever. But like at some point, this leadership council that you put together as a franchise, which I think is completely outrageous for a team that hasn't won anything yet.
Yeah.
It's a joke to give guys like Cole Kmet, a guy who's won 10 games his entire career as a Chicago Bear. Like you're going to empower him,
council,
right? Or Mercedes Lewis, who has more penalties than fucking catches
every time.
He's got more penalties than catches on his resume. Like you're going to let those guys be the leadership council that are going to go and put stuff out there and all this stuff. And I think now it comes down to these players have to produce because there is no more excuses. Flus is gone.
Absolutely.
Boom. He's it.
So
I need to go out there and do it.
To that point, I know we talked a bit with Cody about Thomas Brown, but to go back to our Thomas Brown graphic here that you so nicely prepared for us, and then I didn't even read.
Stop.
A new hope. Thomas Brown steps in as interim head coach. What are your hopes for the rest of the season? Let's go back to that for a minute, Ace, because what is the expectation here? I guess let me start this. For me, I think that even if the Bears win out the rest of the season, which I'm not saying that's going to happen.
No, I know what you're saying.
But even if they were to win out, and we've got 5 games left?
Yep.
Right? So you've won 4 games on the season. So the best record you can have is 9-8.
Yep.
So if the Bears go 9-8 and somehow slide into the 7th seed of the playoffs, and let's say they go and lose in the first round, or somehow, some miracle, they win the first round and then get stomped in the second round of the playoffs, whatever the case is, I don't want the Bears to just go, oh, Thomas Brown's our guy, because the team was so much better under him.
Yeah, no.
Ben Johnson is going to want this job.
He wanted it last
Kevin
year.
Warren stood at the podium. Well, I'm sorry, he sat at the desk today. That's how you knew they meant business, because they rolled the desk out instead of the podium.
Yeah.
Kevin Warren sat at that desk today and said, this is going to be the most coveted job in all of the NFL this offseason. We truly believe that this is going to be the job that everyone wants. So you've got to do your due diligence. And if Thomas Brown ends up being the guy because you interview 7 candidates other than him, and you think that he was very Mike Tomlin-esque today.
Yeah.
He sat at that podium, said all the right things, and made you want to believe in him, because he's an actions speak louder than words guy. And that's fine. If Thomas Brown goes out there and proves to us that he's the guy over the next 5 weeks and into the offseason, if we interview Ben Johnson and this organization believes in Thomas Brown more than they do Ben Johnson, that's fine. I'll support it. But I think you need to leave no stone unturned. You need to pick up the phone and have a conversation with Caleb's former coach at Oklahoma, Lincoln Riley, and say, what's the number? What would it take to bring you to the NFL to come coach Caleb at the professional level?
So
you're shaking your head, but
I like the idea.
Lincoln Riley runs a pro-style offense.
I get it. I love the idea, and that's the whole Cliff Kingsbury thing. And
yeah,
I like the idea. My biggest problem is I want a guy who's done it at the NFL level. And that's why I'm kind of glad. Like, if you're looking at this as okay, what's one positive of the fact that they kept Eberflus? Well, Ben Johnson wanted the job last season, right? The offense of the Lions looked good last year, right? Reports are out there that he's still eyeing the Chicago Bears job and would like
Oh,
that job
absolutely.
too. And now you don't just have, oh, he's not just the hot name from one season. He produced last year, he's producing this year. So
Our
now
guy
you're
Mike
looking
in the
at it. Yeah, man, Mike, what's up, Mike? I wasn't the only negative person on this show today. But anyways, so you have Ben Johnson, you have last season, you have this season. This
Yep.
season, the Lions have the best offense in the NFL. So there's your track record. That to me is the guy. And
Okay.
maybe he.
So what if
this
he
whole
doesn't
leader-
want the job?
Well, I don't think that's the case. I think he wants this job a lot. Schefter has reported it twice now that he's eyeing the Bears job.
So
What's he
let
going to
me-
do?
Let me rephrase. Let me ask you this, Ace. If Ben Johnson wants the job, is it automatically his and you interview no one else?
No. I don't think you don't have the benefit of the doubt to just do that. I think if you're the Bears, you bring in 50 people if you have to. I don't care. And if Thomas Brown does such a good job, he warrants himself an interview, yes. But honestly, if you bring in all these people, most offensive coaches are going to want to call their own game plan, right? But what's the harm? Like, let's say
Right.
Ben Johnson comes in there and you say, hey, we want you to be the head coach. We understand it's going to be your offense. You're going to call all the plays, whatever. But what are your thoughts? I wouldn't tell him, hey, you have to keep Thomas Brown on this team. But I'd be like, hey, what are your thoughts?
Thomas Brown?
Yep. Hey, as your OC, what are your thoughts on having him in the building as your offensive coordinator? And listen to it. Because if he builds a rapport with Caleb and they have something going, there's no harm in asking that question at an interview with a head coach, correct? What's the worst case? They say no. Okay, well then then you follow it up with, okay, so no.
What's your plan
right.
to develop and make a smooth transition,
Boom.
et cetera, et cetera?
There you go. But what the Bears
We're
have
on
the
the same
track
wave.
record of doing is being like, hey, Ben Johnson, we want you as our head coach, but you can't have this position unless you keep Thomas Brown as your offensive coordinator.
Right. Unless you do this.
Right. And I don't want that. I want polls because ultimately Kevin Warren said that it's his decision if they can't come to an agreement. He's the final say. Did you watch the press conference? Didn't it seem very like dad and in trouble son? Like,
yeah,
like
I was going to allude to that. I was going to say like child in the principal's office.
Yeah, like he's in trouble.
To me, the fact that they had to go out there and say that shows how inept you are as an organization from the top down, because there should be no question. There should be no contradicting report out there that says that, well, Kevin Warren's going to make the decision. No, Kevin Warren is the president of football operations. You have a general manager in Ryan Poles. If you believe in him and think that he's the right guy for the job, which clearly you do because you didn't can him when you fired Flus or when you fired Waldron. So that tells us that you believe in him, and you came and sat at the podium today for an hour and said that we believe in Ryan and everything that he's done for our football team and blah, 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 blah. It's Ryan's job. It's Ryan's going to be the one that picks it. If that's all a smoke show, then you're just idiots as an organization. We got our guy Mike in the chat here. If Brown wants this job, I think you do your due diligence and go through the interview process, but should be Ben's job.
I agree.
But if Detroit doesn't win the Super Bowl, I wouldn't be shocked if Ben stays with Detroit one more year to try and get one.
Like, I like that idea if they don't win the Super Bowl, but also you didn't win
how many
Super Bowl
more
last
years
year,
are
and that's why you
to try to win
year,
it
right?
with Detroit,
right? I think Ben Johnson is going to be a very sought after candidate, and the money that he is going to get, and that's the other thing. Like,
the Bears flew Dan Quinn in coach to visit.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Hey, but at least George picked up Ryan Poles from the airport. Remember that? Everyone was like, oh my God, he picked him up with his Bears jacket on, and it was so cool.
Hey, I'm ready to stand for bat for Ryan Poles and say he's probably the best general manager this team's had.
Okay, let me digest that for a second. I'm willing to stand with Ryan Poles as the best general manager the Bears have ever had. I disagree.
Who? Phil Emery?
Jerry Angelo.
Jerry Angelo?
He drafted Hall of Famers. Period. And you saw that potential
You use
early
that
on.
S on Hall
You-
of Famers
you
very
saw-
loosely, my friend.
Okay, Peanut has the potential to be a Hall of Famer. Urlacher is a Hall of Famer. Devin Hester is a Hall of Famer. He got you Julius Peppers. He brought in. You got you like. There's so many things he did, and I'm not saying Poles is bad.
I
But
think
honestly,
Poles
if
at
they
the
would have,
end of his
if
career
Kevin
with
Warren's
Bears
would have been
be-
like, if Kevin Warren would have came out and said, "Hey, we're moving on from Ryan Poles too because he just hasn't produced what we need him to produce,"
I
wouldn't have been shocked.
I would have been pissed off.
What's the only reason I feel like
He fleeced
I
the
know Mike is
greatest
gonna
trade
Mike
in
is
all
going
of
to hate this
trade
topic, and I
history.
know it. Listen, I get it. He got a fantastic trade, a haul for that number 1 pick, a great general
the
manager,
best trade of all time.
any general manager
For
would have probably made that trade. Maybe not to the extent at which Ryan Poles was able to get in terms of capital, but a good general manager would have done the same thing. And if you look at, I'm not saying he's bad. So before I get comments of you are so negative all the time,
You're a hater.
Angelo's the meanie. No, man, I just think that there's things that he hasn't done well. There's areas of this team he just cannot.
The offensive
Fine.
and defensive lines. You're not wrong.
So other than DJ Moore, name a good wide receiver he's gotten.
I think Tyler Scott's a good depth piece for
Do you?
sure.
How often has he seen the field?
Okay, you can't have
Exactly.
that
Hold on, I'm not
argument,
done. I'm
though.
not done.
No, hold
What
on.
about
You can't
offensive
have that
linemen?
argument though?
What
because
about
you have-
offensive linemen?
Okay, Shelton hasn't looked bad the last few weeks.
Okay. He signed Nate Davis, was his big free agent signing a couple years ago. How'd that work? It was ass, right?
Okay,
Darnell,
not
Larry
every-
Borum. Hold on.
Darnell
Larry
Wright's a
Borum.
stud.
Larry Borum was a guy. He was like, we like the development of Larry Borum. Larry Borum is a turnstile on the offensive line, correct?
Okay, but Braxton Jones,
I'm not
Darnell
done.
Wright.
I'm not done.
I mean, no.
Braxton Jones is
you're
okay.
done because
Braxton Jones is okay. You're sitting with
You're
with
done
an average to
because-
below average offensive line. You're sitting with a defensive line that, yeah, Andrew Billings is good. I give you that. Montez Sweat,
is-
yes, but has he produced this season?
No, because
You
he's
paid
getting
him all
double
this
triple
money.
teamed.
You paid him all exactly. A
It's the
good
Khalil
general
Mack
manager would have been like, huh, I have this 4th round pick. I have an extra 2nd round pick next year. Well, shit. What if I was to do something crazy, package that 4th, a 2nd, and then maybe another draft pick and try to move up further in the draft and potentially look at getting a more impact player at that position, knowing
So
that your
you're talking
defensive
about
line and your
free agent
offensive line were the
signing.
biggest weaknesses on your team. You draft a fucking rookie quarterback and set him behind that offensive line that is complete garbage with a defensive line that generates 0 pressure if you're not blitzing.
The
and your
offensive
best
line
blitzer is hurt this
middle
season.
of the pack, actually.
What do you say?
The offensive line via PFF is like middle of the pack. They're like 16 out of 32. So they're
Okay,
they're
middle
not
of
the
the
best. They're not the worst. They're middle of the pack.
And I'm not saying, listen, Caleb has been responsible for quite a bit of these sacks also. So I'm not just all putting it on the offensive
I
line.
wasn't even gonna point
But-
at that direction.
But then where's the defensive line rank in terms of greatness?
the defensive line isn't great right
Now
now.
listen, the dude can
But
draft himself a back end of the defense guy better than anybody I've ever
You
seen.
got Tremaine Edmonds. You got TJ Edwards.
Okay, all right, cool.
Both
What? Both what?
linebackers play extremely well, and you got them for
Hold
the
on.
same
Let's
price that you paid
hold
Roquan
on.
Smith.
Okay, yes, obviously 2 for 1 is better, but like, if we're really breaking this down, and I know Angelo's a hater, he's always hating on everybody, he's never happy, blah blah blah. Yeah, I'm never happy. Okay, it's my life, story of my life. But like, if you look at this team right now, who look at it and be like, hey, that guy is the guy.
Caleb Williams, DJ
Exactly,
Moore,
that's it.
Rome Odunze.
Whoa, hold on.
Um,
Is DJ Moore really that guy?
Absolutely.
Because he's played like a number
He had a
2 wide
12
receiver
he had a
most of the
1,200
year.
yard season with
last
Sam
year.
Darnold.
Okay, cool.
Um,
He had a
DJ
good year
okay.
last year with Justin Fields also.
So
He's also played like a prima donna diva most of this season.
okay,
correct?
so let me give you my list and then we can critique it.
I'm having
Caleb
such a
Williams,
good time right
DJ
now.
Moore, Romo Dunze, Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon.
Okay.
What
I did say, I gave him credit for drafting the back end of the defense. So Brisker and Gordon are in there.
Brisker, obviously.
They're both in there. I gave him credit for that.
Okay. I think Edmonds and Edwards are both great linebackers. There's been a lot of signings on this team under Ryan Poles that, like, sure, it's easy to say that the offensive and defensive line isn't enough. It's easy enough to say that, you know, they should have. Tyreek Stevenson's not bad. Like, he's good. He's a prima donna, and he needs to just focus on playing football and not fucking trying to brawl people and be an idiot while he's out there on the field and hoopla with the fans and not pay attention to what's going on.
He's been a non-factor on this team since that Washington game.
You can't say that. He had like 3 good, very critical passes.
Okay, he had the good. I'll give him the forced fumble on Thursday. Great. But if you're so good, why are you rotating with somebody in and out of the lineup? Now, maybe that's a Flus thing. Maybe that's Flus, and it's, hey, with Flus gone, we're just going to let him play. Cool. But in terms of, like, I think we give too much praise to Ryan Poles. He's responsible for the same record that Matt Eberflus had, period. They were brought in at the same time. It's the same exact record, and you put the players on the team that have led to the record that we're currently sitting at, correct?
Okay, but we just got done saying that there's 4 games this season the Bears should have won that they lost because of it.
I agree. So give him 4 more wins.
Okay. If this team won 8 games right now this season, everyone would
Matt Eberflus would still be here too.
Everyone would be
right. We'd all be singing Kumbaya, holding each other's hands, wishing each other a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, buying Bears jerseys all year. Be the hot topic. Tremaine Edmonds jerseys flying off the shelf, and Nate Davis jerseys going wild.
The decisions that Matt Eberflus made in crucial moments within games are not on Ryan Poles.
Now, can I ask you a question?
To the extent that he hired him, yes, he did hire him, but
he also okayed the hiring of Shane Waldron in Caleb Williams' most developmental year, correct?
So, sure, he said yeah, but it was Matt's guy. It was Matt's decision, and that's well known.
Right, I get that, but also you're the general manager. If your coach is going to do something completely stupid like that, you fire the guy.
Okay, but you look at the Shane Waldron hiring on paper, and the question was it Shane Waldron or Dave Canales that made Geno Smith great? I think we know the answer now.
Well, yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt. What are we doing?
But, I mean, ultimately, he was there during that career high year for Geno Smith, and that was his convincing resume builder to the Chicago Bears was, look at what I did to Geno Smith. Sure, it was a crock of shit, but even a broken clock's right twice a day. You know what I'm saying?
I'm not saying, and I know my meatheadishness took over in the Ryan Poles conversation. I don't think he's a bad GM at all. Honestly, I would have been shocked if they fired him simply because I feel like you got Caleb. You deserve to see a little bit more of this through.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there are issues with how he's addressed this team. There are things that he's done wrong. Now, reports have come out that there's been potential meddling from George. So maybe it's not Ryan's fault. Maybe say over whether Flus stayed or left. Maybe that's
the decision wasn't made until after he was at the podium, man.
So from this point on is the crucial judgment time for Ryan Poles. You have the rest of this year, the draft, and next season to make progress. And I shudder to think, God forbid, they get this coaching search wrong. Oh, God.
I don't think they can.
Thinking about. You don't think they can? They've gotten
Not
it
if
wrong
it's
every
the
time.
most coveted job in the NFL. If what Kevin Warren said today is even remotely true,
Kevin Warren's job is to come out there and blow smoke up everyone's ass.
there are going to be a line of candidates going around the block. Everyone in the league recognizes that Caleb Williams is the best thing since sliced bread.
I agree.
Like,
But also, Kevin Warren's job was also to start the stadium. And how's that going?
well, Arlington just approved the fact that they would waive the taxes. So
Yeah, and his dumbass still wants to stay in Chicago.
yeah, we can debate that.
Right, that's a
time.
whole different topic. But there's just, again,
Uh,
people are like, Angela, you're so negative. I want this team to win so badly. It's
I know you do.
insane. And the fact that like I have to be this negative is so upsetting to me because I just want to see my favorite Chicago sports team win. I love the Cubs.
and
I
one-
love the Hawks. I love the Bulls. But the
One
Bears,
note we got from our guy Mike here. I don't mean to cut you off, but what is tough is we don't even know whose decision it was to hire the coach.
right? And that's the thing. I'm bashing polls for all this stuff, but at the end of the day,
Was it even on him? Probably
if
not.
owner George is up there like, hey, Ryan, I think we should really take a look at this fellow over here.
His
makes-
sister's last name is McCall.
Dude, when Mike
Yes,
said
he
that
did.
shit in the chat, and then you hear all these rumors about like he told him to hire him. I'm like, damn, maybe his sister was like, hey George, Matt really needs a job. Could you look at him for your head coach? And they're like, oh,
They're,
yeah,
they're gonna
absolutely.
fire him in Indy. We need him
Absolutely.
to come on down
Yeah,
here.
bro, come on.
Hey,
It's outrageous.
86-year-old Bill Polian. Who do you think we should hire as a coach?
That's one thing I swear to God I do not want to see. I don't care who they hire as the head coach. Okay, that's a lie. I will be less mad if Kevin Warren, Ryan Poles, and whatever the other little committee pieces are make a
Keep it
decision.
in-house, man.
Right. We don't need Bill Polian, Ernie Accorsi, guys that are 80 years old that haven't been in football for 40 years coming to you and be like, what's a really great guy? That guy. I have no idea what's going on in the NFL right now,
Right.
but I think he's a good guy. I don't want that. I
John
want them
Gruden?
to. I don't want John Gruden either.
I'm kidding.
Like,
He
there's.
just signed a huge deal with Barstool.
Yeah, he ain't going nowhere.
He's Barstool Gruden now.
I want my list is Ben Johnson, maybe Cliff
Here's your
Kingsbury.
Here's the order of your list that it's in. It goes.
Yeah,
Reggie,
it's really
Izzy,
Ben
Fuck,
Johnson
and Biggie.
because watching the Lions play offense is so fun and it's annoying because I have a friend that's a Lions fan and it's constantly the text messages I was getting on Thanksgiving. Ugh. But
Are you like trying to mock me? I kind of understand.
no, I'm not mocking, but I just want them to get it right. And
I get
your
it.
your fears are valid though, in terms of like if Thomas Brown goes out there and shows that this team has some life, like it's very Bears of them to be like,
Be like
oh,
Thomas.
well, he's already here.
Here's the keys to the
Yeah,
kingdom.
we're paying him already. Might as well just promote him. The dude
Right.
went from passing game coordinator, offensive coordinator. Now he's the head coach. Pretty soon he's going to be the owner.
He'll
So
be
who
the
knows?
GM next.
Yeah, he'll be
Thursday.
something. He'll be rebuilding the stadium by hand at some point here in the future. So I don't know. I'm just ready for this team to stop being so completely inept.
Packers suck.
It. We got Mike here with one more comment. I want Ben. If it's not, I hope it's because Brown blew us away and he's Tomlin 2.0. That's the only way that I'm okay with it being Thomas Brown next year. And honestly, I still think the search needs to be extensive. So we touched on it. We talked. You aired your grievances towards Ryan Poles, the Chicago Bears, the city of Chicago, and every single other possible scenario here tonight on Ace's Wild. Ace got a little wild
I
tonight.
did. I got heated there for a second. I have all this pent up.
You got your boy back. Now you're over here
Oh,
talking like
It's
talking
been
like
such a
Travis
fun
and
show,
stand-up
Tarbill. I
Bears
missed you
for
so much.
an hour and a half.
It's like you
Yeah.
come home for the holidays, How about you just stay and do shows with me, huh?
I'm here, Ace.
Our chemistry is just so good.
I'm
You
here,
let me
Ace.
get crazy, but then you're also the calming nature of this show
Gotta
that
bring it
reels
back
me
down to earth.
Right. I'm like that wild stallion that just goes. And then once I'm like, damn, I went a little.
All right, everybody.
Oh, that's why. I love
Oh,
it.
and I love that I can do that. So, everybody, we appreciate you joining Ace's Wild Chicago Sports Takes with Ace and Tarbill. As always, go like, follow, and subscribe to the Undefeated Sports Network on all major social media platforms: YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook. We're everywhere. I'm still not gonna say X. I'm gonna say Twitter till the end of time. So, but Undefeated Sports Network on YouTube. You see the links here in the bottom right corner. Be sure to go like, subscribe, follow, hit that bell. It helps us with the algorithm. You are pointing completely the wrong way.
Oh, it's right
So
up there.
that being said,
For
we
the
appreciate
Aces
each
Wild.
and every one of you. Thank you for joining us, and have a great night, everybody. We will be back next week with more Wild Chicago Sports Talk.
Yeah!